Hi everyone, welcome to my speech on code status and end-of-life care. My name is Ashley Polk. I am an ICU nurse at Wellstar Spalding Regional in Griffin, Georgia. This is a topic that is very near and dear to me, and it's a topic of continual controversy in the hospital, just because people don't want to talk about this subject because it's not the sexy topic, if you will. But my goals for this speech are for you to actually understand the formal definition of code status and resuscitation, and then we'll get into why it's important to know it beforehand, like the pros of knowing your code status before and actually having this conversation, as well as some of the pushback that you'll get from having code status conversations too early or at inappropriate times. And I also have a link for the advanced directive for the state of Georgia, which I'll explain to you more towards the end, which is really, really informative, good stuff. So we'll dig right into it. So resuscitation is the process of correcting physiological disorders such as lack of breathing or cardiac arrest in an acutely ill patient. And the most common form of resuscitation that you guys have probably heard of is CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's the physical act of compressing a patient's chest as well as providing them with oxygen to their lungs. You're doing both of these at the same time to try to oxygenate the brain. That's what the primary insult is lack of perfusion, lack of blood flow to the brain. And so code status is essentially the level of resuscitation that you want. And you can actually pick, you have multiple options now, but the primary two that we have are full code and DNR. And what a full code is essentially we do everything for you. If we find you on the side of the road, you're a full code. Even if you have DNR tattooed on your chest, you're a full code unless we have paperwork or a relative has your paperwork or your wishes. And then a do not resuscitate order means that it doesn't mean that we don't treat you, but it does mean that if your heart were to stop or you stop breathing, we let you pass away instead of actually trying to actively do chest compressions, do electrical shocks, give you medication. We still treat you normally like you could have a lung disorder, and we'll still treat you, but if you actually completely stop breathing, then we will just let you pass away because that is your wish as a patient. It's respecting patient autonomy. It's your decision. So while it seems straightforward, but there's a whole lot of gray area to that, and that's a topic for another informative speech. So we'll go into why I think that it's appropriate to know beforehand, because you can get into a situation where you become unresponsive for whatever reason. You don't know. You might have a heart attack and you didn't know. So things happen. But if you don't have your wishes discussed beforehand, we could end up doing things to you in the hospital that you might not necessarily have ever wanted. So maybe you didn't want to have your heart pumped on, or you did not want to have shocks, or you did not want to have a tube put in your throat to be on a breathing machine. But if we don't know that beforehand, and if you haven't discussed it with anyone, then we have no way of knowing that. And our first instinct is to act. We assess and we act because we are saving your life in the hospital. So if you don't want that done, those wishes need to be addressed well beforehand, because what happens is you have there's a list of your next of kin that we have to follow with our ethics committee. By law, we have to follow this, and these people may not be relatives that you even like or talk to or are estranged, but we have to go down a list, and if you don't have a good relationship with them, we still have to, by law, get in contact with them to make decisions about you. And if we can't, then you're stuck in the hospital with us until we can get a hold of someone. So you essentially stay on life support if you did not express your wishes beforehand or have an advance directive and have this conversation beforehand. So the pushback that you'll get from this is patients weren't expecting it. Doctors weren't very clear on what, like, the actual prognosis of the patient. So if they don't have these conversations early, then the patient can be misled into thinking, hey, maybe this chemotherapy, I'm going to win, I'm going to beat the cancer, it's going to cure me. And they never actually have the conversation about, hey, what would you like at the end of your life, just in case something were to happen. And so that's where I think we fall short a lot of the time. And then you have younger patients too. When you talk about this, they get very angry because they want to, they think that they're invincible and immortal. And it's really sad when we get a lot of younger patients that, these things happen to, and they've never thought about it. And, it's, they may have never had anything wrong with them. And so, I mean, we get the whole range of reaction when it comes to having these conversations. So these have to be approached very, very carefully, so as not to upset a patient either, or their family. So, let's see here. So the last thing I have for you is, here's the advanced directive link that I talked about for the state of Georgia. It explains every step in detail about what kind of resuscitative efforts you would like done. And I highly recommend going to check it out. And as well, we have, there's palliative care and hospice care, and I strongly encourage you to look into that as well. Those kinds of options are if you're actually diagnosed with a serious illness towards the, at some point in your life, those are options that you can think about. Hospice is towards the end of your life, but palliative helps you kind of adjust with that. But I think that's all I got. And here are my references, and I hope you'll have a great, great day.